race coming up this weekend, guys. Donald Long Sweet 16 version 5.0. An event that burst onto the scene with $100,000 plus payday, bringing out all the heaviest hitters in radio versus the world. Just talking about formats of events. What do you guys make of the limited spectator participation? It's got like a Fight Club vibe. It's super underground, the hardest of hardcores, multiple runs, I think, 8-10 rounds of qualifying. Just, Mike, I'll throw it to you first. I understand that everybody's kind of got different strokes for different folks, but I do like the limited engagement type of thing, right? I mean, I understand the business perspective of saying, oh man, kick the gates open and sell tickets to as many people as humanly possible. But I say this all the time, everybody wants what no one else has, right? And when there's only 500 tickets available, it just it generates this interest and this enthusiasm that is hard to deny.
Well, Donald, this may be the only one that's like that, right? I mean, is there another event that's a limited engagement, limited ticket deal in drag racing? I'm not familiar with one.
There is,
and I think
some underground stuff for street.
Maybe so, but I don't know. I think it's hard to sustain. I think it's like everything else we talk about with the heads up stuff, and especially the radial stuff. It's tough to sustain. I think, like you said, the 101,000, that was a few years ago when he paid that. It's not that now. And we've seen the shift from, I think that event was built around radio versus the world. And we've seen these other classes that are now competed there or contested there, obviously, that have sort of stolen the show from RVW. And I think that that's continuing. And it's just because it's hard to sustain the level of performance that event is built around. And I think that as that continues to change, that an event like this is going to be tough.
We've been to them, and it was just, I just don't think it has the buzz when you're there. Even if you are there and you are in the limited crowd of, let's just say like Lights Out 7 or whatever, where it's packed and pandemonium and the stands are packed and the starting line is just packed full of people, and everybody's paying attention. It just has kind of a, I don't know, kind of like a race that doesn't have any spectators.
Coming out of Gainesville, the number one thing I saw on social media, I think, Corey, you may have even mentioned this. I saw several posts about this. I think Dylan Voss made a post about it. This is why we do this. And why people choose to race in HRA in so many situations where it's really a kick in the ass compared to what they could do as far as racing a different series in front of a smaller spectator crowd, is that the energy, the buzz, the experience of racing in front of such a big crowd. I can remember back in the day, we used to run these regional series. We ran IHRA. They had decent crowds, but like a drag stock 2, when people were literally like falling out of the grandstands. And anytime there was a packed crowd, I can remember my dad telling me, was it drag stock 3?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Yeah,
that's all good.
This is why I do this, or this really. And I always remember he'd go out and he'd do like a 8th mile burnout, and I knew he was pumped up because the longer the burnout, the higher RPM.
He's putting on a show.
He's jacked up really for no other reason than the crowd is on their feet. So there's a lot to be said for that when it comes to this sport, in my opinion. And it's something we don't focus on enough.
We heard that at the Door Slammer Nats, some of these pro stock drivers, remember saying, coming through that crowd of people on the starting line.
Waited their whole life for that moment to be the center of attention.
Yeah. And I mean, it was almost like a grudge race, when they were coming through everybody in their burnout, and they said, oh my God, it kind of made me nervous at first, but yeah, it was so awesome, rolling down through there.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. Like I remember the first time I was exposed really to an event like this was when JT and I drove down, made the trek to the greater Dallas area, actually, Cato Mills, Texas, to the Texas Invitational, which was at the time the Super Bowl of street legal, like high-end street car racing, right? It was done at an old airport. It was on a concrete airport runway, and every heavy-hitting street race guy with a big power LS car, Corvettes, Vipers, Camaros, Mustangs, Lamborghinis, Audi R8s, all these exotics and a plethora of late model American performance cars would come down here, but it was super, super exclusive. I mean, you had to enter well in advance. You could only have X amount of crew guys. It was you literally felt like you were at some sort of underground street race. Like it felt like we shouldn't be here. Like, Are we getting in trouble? Are the cops coming? And I think
We probably shouldn't have been.
we probably shouldn't have been there. But when I look at whenever I went to Sweet 16, the first version, and I still think it has that. I mean, or at least it has the potential to have that underground Fight Club type of thing. Like nobody talks about what happens here. I almost think that's one of those events where it would be better off where it wasn't live streamed. Like it's one of the rare occasions where I think you almost need to make it something that you have to be there. You can't watch it. The only people who get to experience this paid the ticket or made the trek to Valdosta, Georgia, because I don't know. I can't personally, my promoter brain, like the Barnum and Bailey in me, I can't help but when I get around this group of people and I see the egos come out and I see the characters come out and I think, man, there's probably an opportunity. Corey, if I got you, I mean, you've got one of the fastest top alcohol cars on the planet Earth, right? If I said, hey, let's get a bunch of guys, let's get 8 guys to throw $5,000 in the hat and we're all each, and we're going to go race for it, this weekend at the Texas Motorplex, and we're not going to let anybody in. I think that's exciting real quick. I really do. I mean, I think it gets exciting really quick.
But does it change it though if you let people in to watch it, Corey?
I think it just kind of comes down to how are we teasing it out? Like, what is the sort of way that we're drumming up the interest so that people are still following what's going on? At the end of the day, yeah, we want to race. So we're going to be there just because it sounds like a great time. But at the same time, what are we doing as well to be able to really grow the sport and get people that want to be interested when they can come see it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that an event like Sweet 16, or even as Corey started in his point there, the racers still love an event like this. And we're seeing like Alex Taylor, she just announced today she's driving the Bumblebee Camaro in RVW this weekend. This is something that racers really want to be a part of. But it's more of a racer-centric event, not as much of a fan-centric event. Let me put it that way. I think that
so much of our sport leans that way, though, right?
Right, exactly. But if you look at it through that lens, it's probably successful. If you look at it through a fan or promotion or any of the other lenses, that it's probably not as.
It's just funny. It's just funny because
successful as
you hear these racers complain they want to race in front of crowds all the time. We hear it all the time.
I also hear guys tell me that they want to make 70 runs. I mean, I go to some of these events and I can't help but feel like people are having more fun during the pre-race test because they got to hot lap their shit 4 or 5 times, and it's like at the end of the day, you've got all this money wrapped up in this thing and you want to do some burnouts. Like I want to make some noise. I want to make some smoke, I want all that smoke. That's what they want. They want to go out and race. So I can kind of see it both ways. And I think the lesson maybe is that you can't be everything to everybody. And I think Donald, what I see from him in this is he's got 2 marquee events. Lights Out this year in its 13th year, still packed out. I talked to Mark Woody Woodruff, a legend of the radial ranks, a legend of small tire drag racing. He told me, man, I've been to every one of them, I think. And this was without question the most human beings I've ever seen there. Like he said, there was so many people there. Saturday, the crowd was bananas. And it's really impressive because there's not a whole lot of events that have stood the test of time quite like that. So he's got the big barn burner, everybody come out, climbing over the fence to get in the place event in February. And he has a very similar event in October, November, right, with No Mercy. And I think if you really think about what it takes to put on these events, how stressful it is, how strenuous it is, he probably doesn't have the appetite or the desire to do another one of those events where people are having heat strokes and people are crashing into each other in the parking lot because there's cars everywhere. Yeah. It's a huge nightmare. So I think that for him, there's some selfish motivations for this event. And he's told me before that it's like the most fun he has putting on races is this one because he can have the big race and have all that, but without all the headache and hard work and heartache that comes with dealing with the public, right? Anybody that's been in business for themselves or worked in a forward-facing business knows that it's tough dealing with the public.
We talked about it earlier this week, I think, or last week or whatever it was, that that was one of the funner races we went to, but we were almost as a spectator, right? We were down at someone's camper. And we were up on top of it. We were having drinks and
names will not be named.
Yeah, I had a great time. And but we did. It was one of the funner races we'd been to in years, I'd say, right?
Oh, I mean, are you talking about when we went to Sweet 16, the first one? Absolutely. Yeah. I think that I'm just saying that it reminds me of like Bloodsport, right? Like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they're on that weird V thing. Why the hell would you fight on that? right? You know and
Why
there's
wouldn't you, man?
yeah, true. But like there's like 80 people there and everybody's like well dressed and rich or whatever and betting on it. It just felt that's what I see. And maybe that's not what everybody else sees. But when I look at Sweet 16, I go, man, I actually really like this. I think the only way it could be better is if there was no testing. I know that everybody loves to run the wheels off their stuff, so that would be a tough sell. But just imagine the intensity. That's one of my favorite things about no prep racing. We're drawing names out of a hat and we're drag racing. Like someone's winning and losing right now. We're not going to practice for 3 hours. We're not going to practice for 3 days. We're going to have a drag race right now. And what do you make of that? When you look at the excitement and all the everything good that has come from the Street Outlaws scene, Corey, the No Prep Kings, how do you view that brand of drag racing and what they've done to the sport or done for the sport?
I think it's just opened up a lot of opportunities for people, and it's really cool to see people going both directions. So you've got a lot of the those fans that do check out what's going on in some of the bigger series, but then you've got bigger names within our side of the pond, if you will, with like Paige Coughlin getting interested in finding ways to make her way over there. So it's cool to start seeing that crossover and having people to root for. And I mean, obviously Coughlin's one of the biggest names in the sport, no matter what series you're a part of. So I think the more that happens, I mean, it's just continuing just to the recurring theme of any of your shows. And then what I've said a couple times so far is it's all for the betterment of the sport. There's so many different types of drag racing, but it's drag racing. And what do we got to do to continue to push it forward?
I couldn't agree more. Very well said, because we need all those things, in my opinion. Like we need the marquee attractions. We need that reality.